Hello everyone, Clack of the Geek here, welcome back to the James Bond marathon series, and now we're on the Roger Moore era, and this is probably the review that I'm most looking forward to because I'm going to be discussing the first Bond film that I ever watched, Moonraker from 1979. So basically, this was only a few months ago, but it was on the TV. I've been wanting to watch Bond for a while, we started to watch it, and the rest, as they say, is history. So this is Roger Moore's fourth Bond film. It was midway through his tenure, and it's infamous because it's the one where he goes to space. It's an often derided film, it's been a bit too over the top, and you know, it's like James Bond goes sci-fi, Bond goes to space. It's purely a Star Wars reaction because that obviously had come out 2 years before, and I absolutely love this film, and I want to go into why. But before we get properly into the review, I want to address one of the main criticisms of the film is that, you know, because of the success of Star Wars, it's like, oh, why is Bond sci-fi? Why is Bond in space? Now that's not an invalid criticism, but all I want to say to that is, you know, next time you rewatch this film, kind of, I guess, put it aside and just sort of judge the film on whether or not it's a good film on its own merits, and do you have fun with it? Is it enjoyable? And that's what I'm going to explain from my point of view today. So let's talk about Roger Moore as Bond. Now I should make it clear that Roger Moore is my favourite Bond. I absolutely love him. I love him to bits. He's so fun to watch in whatever the film is, whatever the quality of the film is, however old he is, he's always fun to watch. And I think this film, he's absolutely brilliant. He's one of his best ones because I think at this point, you know, he's really comfortable in the role, and he's clearly having fun, and he's obviously the funniest Bond. Like, his humour, it's just incredible. It's so funny. No matter how many times I watch this film, because I've watched it for a second time for this review, and it's still funny. In fact, there's bits of humour that I don't think I picked up on first time round, but rewatching the film, it's just so funny. He's so funny, and even certain lines that maybe aren't the most funny on paper, it's his delivery sometimes as well that makes it funny, and you know, the eyebrow raises and the gags, it's just brilliant. But he's also got that serious side to him, especially when he's confronting the villains. He can do the action really well, and he does show genuine terror and fear, especially in the scene when he's on that like spinny training thing. Speaking of, I couldn't not do that. Now let's talk about Dr. Holly Goodhead, the main Bond girl of the film, played by Lois Charles. I think she's brilliant. She's sort of presented as like Bond's equal, a bit like Anya in the previous film, The Spy Who Loved Me. And I think, you know, she can do some of the action. She's badass, you know, at the end, like, she's beating up all the bad guys at the end and, like, solving what's going on. And she's a brilliant character. And I think the chemistry that they have is pretty cool. It's sort of that conflict. Yeah, as I say, a bit like Anya in The Spy Who Loved Me. That conflict and that sort of bickering and the rivalry is really good. And Moore and Charles are really good together. And there's something I want to mention as well about sort of, because obviously, you know, these older films, they're products of their time. And I was, you know, being the first one that I watched, I was expecting like, oh, this is going to be really bad, isn't it? But, you know what? This film does still hold up, I think. And I think the reason for that is, like, obviously Bond, he's a misogynistic character. That is just who he is. And in this film, there's really, I really like what they do with this. So, when Goodhead and Bond first meet, you know, Bond's making catty remarks, he's being a bit sarcastic, he's like, oh, a woman. Because she's a woman, he's making these catty remarks and being very dismissive. But by the end, she proves herself, she's doing all these things, she's kicking ass, and, you know, he doesn't make any of these comments at the end and gives her this like look of approval and like admiration. And it's that little arc that I think, that's really good. Because I don't think that there is a problem with portraying this on screen, as long as it's not tasteless and for the sake of it. And I think if you actually do something with it, like what Moonraker does, I think it'll hold up much better. Now let's talk about the villains. So the main villain of the film, Drax, played by Michael Lonsdale, rest in peace. I think he's a really good villain. I think he should be talked about more, because I don't know if he's talked about that often, but he's really good. Now he does have one of the more outlandish plans in the Bond franchise. You know, he plans to poison the Earth to begin his new super race in space. But the way Lonsdale delivers it, and his performance, it's very subdued, it's very calm and collected and very elegant. That's a bit odd way to describe it, but yeah, very elegant. And like, he makes it kind of, not reasonable, but you get what he's on about, and that takes skill. But he can do the shouty stuff as well really well, like at the end when his plan starts crumbling, he loses it, and yeah, it's really good. And he gets a great death scene getting sucked into the vacuum of space. Now let's talk about Jaws, the henchman, played by Richard Kill, returning from the Spy Loved Me. Yeah, Jaws is brilliant. I mean, as I say, he's returning from the Spy Loved Me, and at the time, obviously this is the first film I watched, I didn't know Jaws had previously appeared in another film, and so for casual viewers, you don't need to know that Jaws was an established character, but for fans, it's, you know, rewarding to see that he comes back. I do think he's better in The Spy Loved Me. He's a lot creepier and a lot scarier, because some of those scenes are chilling. But he does have his moments in Moonraker, and I think he's just fun to watch. Something I do take issue with is the way his character goes down in the end. Like, I like the idea of him turning good, because he does turn good at the end, and he helps Bond escape, and, you know, he turns good and he falls in love. That, on paper, I like that. In execution, it's just too sudden, and it's too cliche, you know, the love at first sight with Dolly, his girlfriend, and just that, it's that cliche sort of, you know, the love music, like da 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 da. It's that one, and it's just like, is that it? Now let's talk about the direction of this film. It's Lewis Gilbert directing the film, who previously directed You Only Live Twice and The Spy Loved Me, and his Bond films were more big and bombastic and epic, and that's how you can describe Moonraker, because his direction is fantastic. You know, there's some great location work in like Venice and Rio de Janeiro, some brilliant, super fun action scenes. I mean, oh yeah, the pre-credit scene with that incredible skydiving stunt, that is incredible. You've got some great boat chases throughout the film. I even really like the gondola scene in Venice, you know, the massive float. It's a good laugh. The cable car scene in the Rio section, really good. Some really good long shots in that scene as well. It really gives you like a scale of how scary it must be. And the final fight on Drax's space station with all the lasers and the space shuttles, and it is incredible stuff. It's absolutely incredible. I love all of the lasers, the visual effects are really cool. All of the different characters just, you know, coming at it, and it's breathtaking stuff. And speaking of that space station, the way it's designed, it was Ken Adam who designed it, and I think this was his last film for the Bond films, but my god did he go out on a bang. I mean, that space station, it looks incredible, the way it moves and operates. If we're talking about like other, like, you know, references to other sci-fi films other than Star Wars, because there are Star Wars elements, but yeah, that space station, it looks quite 2001: A Space Odyssey-esque. I mean, there's other references to 2001, like the floating pen. And there's even a reference at some point in there to Close Encounters of the Third Kind with there's a little keypad lock. It's the theme from Close Encounters. Okay, let's get into some criticisms of the film. The main one being is that it's too similar to The Spy Loved Me. Now, I hadn't seen The Spy Loved Me when I first watched Moonraker, so obviously there was that. But watching it back with The Spy Loved Me, I've seen that. That Spy Loved Me is much better. I think, you know, you can take it scene by scene. I mean, the opening of Spy Loved Me has a submarine hijacked. Moonraker, it's a shuttle that's hijacked. I mean, they are the same director and the same writer, but yeah, I think they're a bit too similar. There are elements where Moonraker does improve. For example, I think Drax is a much better villain than Stromberg from The Spy Loved Me, but there's notably weaker areas, like Jaws is weaker in this than The Spy Loved Me. Another thing that I think isn't great about this film is Shirley Bassey's song, which is a shame. I mean, I remember when we first watched this film, my dad actually piped up and he was like, oh, Shirley Bassey, she did some good songs. And it's true, you know, Goldfinger and Diamonds Are Forever are fabulous, but Moonraker's just always been a bit of a forgettable listen. Like, it's nice, it's quite relaxing, but I don't know, it's just one of the more forgettable tracks. So overall, I'd give this film an 8.5 out of 10. On the second viewing, I actually liked it even more, just because I was more familiar with the Bond elements. And I hope that to the people who aren't as big of a fan of this, I hope this has maybe convinced you to give it a second chance, and you may even like it a bit more, who knows. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and make sure you like and subscribe and comment. What do you think of Moonraker? What do you think of Roger Moore as Bond? Let me know all that in the comments below, and join me next time. And, but a bit of a warning, It's going to scare the living daylights out of you. I'll see you then.